Imagine, if you will, for a moment, it's the zombie apocalypse. You wake up to the sound of a horde banging on your door. You have very little time before they burst through to get everything you need to survive. What do you take? A gun? An axe or a sword? Maybe get some supplies and run away. Well, the truth is that you only really need 3 blocks. We begin this journey like most Minecraft, in the middle of nowhere. First, you'll notice that I'm given a handgun and a handful of bread. This is possible due to the mod offers expecting the player to be unexperienced and maybe intimidated by the zombie hordes. Although I am neither, I believe this to be a sign of things to come. However, my worries are immediately interrupted by the game telling me that I need an axe to do the simplest of tasks of the first minutes of any Minecraft playthrough. This is quite troublesome. But wait! This is actually going to be challenged by a zombie! Look! They're fast! They're dead! Dead. They're dead. Well, that's to be expected, I guess, when I have a gun and they don't. Back on topic, I need an axe. At first I thought this would be something I wanted to solve with structures. Lucky for me, some bush and a fallen tree decided to lend their logs to me. How generous. With this, I do the usual get stone and stone tools routine everyone and their mother should be accustomed to. Using these tools, we cut down our first trees. Admittedly, the satisfaction of the fall is worth the initial hassle, I suppose. Iron and coal are next to the chopping block of Minecraft must-gets, so nearby cave is where we go next. Except I'm lying, because scary noises when you're not expecting them can in fact be scary. Fortunately, a nearby solution to our predicament is placed near an archaeological site. I am not a member of the British Museum, so it'll be left alone. The coal hauer will... not. Alright, so zombies can be a little noisy, regardless of the decay they have experienced. Unfortunately, past me's brain processes noise as a threat, so a somewhat careful approach will be taken in place. I finished up the cleanup of the cave by picking up the iron on its side, being as careful as possible as to avoid anything that comes from the darkness. Speaking of the darkness, night is falling, and I have no bed. Therefore it's time for shelter, or in this case, a pile of wood near a local bear, and some waiting time. During this waiting time, we gaze upon the local, admittedly beautiful scenery, mark down the location of the trail ruin, which we won't come back to, observe the interesting wildlife, look up some useful and less than useful recipes. By the way, as is customary, create as it is Modpack. What, were you expecting something else, like zombies or something? In the midst of his annoyance, we nearly end up giving one of our defensive options to the zombies. Luckily, it was only nearly, and no other interesting incidents happened during the night. Some stragglers were left over, and they're easily cleaned up due to my height advantage. Anyways, break time's over. Let's get back on the road. The road sees us encounter a large wind turbine, which yields significant value. A handful of passive animals which were very generous donors of their resources. And of course, more scenery, sponsored by Medium. And the fact that this modpack was intended for a YouTube audience, and not someone for looking for a gameplay experience. Regardless, nighttime comes by once more, and I still have no bed, so a shelter it is. Unfortunately, the first shelter cave I encountered just so happens to be a public loo. I didn't want to deal with the stench, so Birmingham Housing Complex will have to do. The locals do not like my presence here, but I'm not certain this is because they don't like outside folk like me, or because they are miserable, angry people. Well, they're British, so it's likely both.
I just woke up in a steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a shit.
I, of course, spend the night in an uninfested building, where I find some useful supplies for my survival. But besides survival, what is my goal here? Given, as I mentioned previously, this is intended for a YouTube audience, and the fact that there is no questline, leads me to suspect that the end goal is to thrive. While thriving as an objective is effective for someone less skilled, or someone that wants clout, I am someone who plays games for games, so my end goal is the standard Minecraft completion objective, which is the end. Shocker, I know. Getting back on topic, I continue exploring our newly moved neighborhood in search of generous donations. Our search leads us to a nearby gas station, I believe, It's hard to tell when everything is in such a sorry state. The locals, of course, object to having more intelligent, yet poor people try to obtain their aid, so naturally I had to clear out a handful of troublemakers. This did take somewhat of a while, as past me was still under the impression that the enemy would be a danger to me, especially as I had no ammo. But eventually I would get the job done and score myself some valuable, aid. By now I finally remembered to make a shield, one of the most powerful items in the early game, so it should hopefully aid in my survival struggles. The next building was immediately a good demonstration of its utility, yet it also let me start to pick up a key bit of information about the zombies. You know this sound? Yeah, this indicates that a zombie has found you and will begin pursuing you. What this means for me is that I act like a scaredy cat and take a long route from above to get the chest next to a zombie spawner in hopes to be as safe as possible. Though this also leads me to find another chest in a nearby toilet. Eventually I get the stuff in the other chest, which includes a golden apple, which apparently cures infections. This implies that the zombie-like state is caused by viruses and not the cause of being in the soggy, grey lands of Britain, but fair enough, I'm sure this will be useful in a bit. As stated, the zombies that I have aggravated have showed up, which I'll deal with ease as I am 3 blocks up. Regardless, the weather and the ushering of nighttime permits me to go home, which I do with pleasure. I have enough supplies to last a decent while and enough satisfaction in exploring to leave some for future need. Typically, the Lost Cities mod that adds, well, Lost Cities in the structure generation also makes sure that most buildings have a basement. In this case, my former neighbors have conveniently forgotten to take their defensive rifle with them when moving out. Now that I've found it, I'm sure it'll have plenty of use by me. In addition, I found a large sum of iron, which I procure for some rudimentary iron armor. It won't be the best form of protection, but it'll do. I'm certain that I will surely swap to better armor towards the end of my adventures. Mining is one half of Minecraft, and I need better equipment to survive comfortably, which means I need to get more or better guns. This needs gunmetal, which in turn needs copper and iron, so large quantities of said metals will be duly collected and processed. Anyway, daytime has come once more, and that means it's time to explore. I had 2 pair of buildings to the west of my home and find them to be deeply invested with football fans. Besides the foul odor, they also block access to potential loot and possibly guns, so I subconsciously pull her up 3 blocks to avoid them from hurting me. Unfortunately, without ammo, I found that clearing a large group of zombies with only an axe to be somewhat of a Sisyphean task. Though I did notice that one of the zombies dropped an ender pearl. I tried to get it by placing blocks, but failed. I then tried to pull her up to the nearby building to harvest the loot from there. This worked for roughly 10 seconds, before the mob made it known that they know this neighborhood better than I do. Infection. This is quite troublesome. In fact, it is extremely problematic. I am in hardcore mode, meaning in 5 minutes I will die. Alright, note yourself. Golden apples are extremely useful and a must get. Second, never approach infested areas without proper extermination equipment. With that in mind, let's go home. Night is approaching again and mobs still follow light level rules, for some reason. So it's best not to make the already large community larger. Upon my return home, I immediately head back to the mines for more resources. I discover sulfur, which will be useful to make gunpowder. I also discover the deep dark. Yep, it looks like my mind is made up about the next steps. After grabbing the resources that I came for, I head up to set them to process. At first, I take the junk I need and leave the rest. That's right, I'm leaving. There is no point in staying in a place infested with the skulk. Not long after leaving, I stumble upon an interesting sight. A zombie with a bow. I proceed to ignore it and just hit the road, for they don't pose that much of a threat. But hey, I wasn't wrong in implying some intelligence of the zombies, though this does surely have interesting implications for future combat scenarios. I mean, I won't be able to as easily cheese the zombies when there is a ranged zombie variant, right? Right? Anyways, Along the road I pick up some useful stuff, such as potassium, which can be used alongside the aforementioned sulfur to make gunpowder, as well as some sugarcane for paper, which may or may not be useful. I also find some more generous wool donors, allowing me to finally make a sleeping bag, letting me skip the night. A long whiles of traveling later, I encounter our first cow site. I, of course, proceed to accept their donations. This nets me enough leather to craft myself a backpack, letting me store my goodies in a far safer manner. Also, for some reason I can store the backpack, but I can't store my inventory, which is obnoxiously inconsistent, especially since I am someone who is really used to sorting my inventory. I guess it's just a testament to Modpack's quality. Time passes, and I encounter an entrance to a runaway subway tunnel heading through a river. I decide to head in to look for some resources, specifically diamonds, and alongside with the sand I picked up, those would be useful in a bit. Walking through the route, I find myself encountering a cave entrance, infested with zombies of course, but by this point I am not as scared of them. After cleanup, I decide to head further into the cave, climb some bars for myself, and head further to discover a mineshaft entrance. Well, this is somewhat fancier mineshaft entrance. The mineshaft, while certainly fancier, yields nothing of value. Well, except for this brown ore, which yields technically nothing. But I need a diamond pick to mine it, so we'll see. Anyways, the mineshaft leads out to, hey, is it just me or does it seem strange for how many zombies there are in this cave? Like, I get it, it's a zombie apocalypse, but, you know, if the mod developers wanted its player to feel like it is, then wouldn't it make sense for the abandoned mine to not have any zombies at all? Because this is just standard Minecraft mod behavior, and if I wanted a standard behavior, I would have just played vanilla mine. Right, where was I? Oh, right, zombies. This is the part that sees the first formal appearance of the free block strategy. Zombies can't climb, at least not very well. And archer zombies are as freaking as affordable into housing, so all it takes to not get hit by a large group of them, while still being empty clean up, is just to go up by 3 meters. Is it cheese? Probably. Do I care? Yeah, absolutely not. Storming along the cave leads to a massive opening. In it, we find a new ore, titanium. While it would seem really useful, as it's, you know, titanium, the only functionality it serves in this modpack is making turrets. Useful for YouTubers who make I survive 1000 days in X videos, but useless to me, as I'm only here to win. Zombie hordes will simply not be able to reach a state where they get through the soul defense of me and my blocks. Meanwhile, I mine up some gold, placing me in the easily surviving category. Alongside this, that's a new strategy. Ever wonder what happens when he makes hot lava and okay, no, I'm not doing this stupid joke. So anyways, I just put some lava on zombies' heads. Regardless, the zombies are becoming less and less of a problem, and more of an annoyance. With that in mind, I decided to add one too many drug addicts to listen to, and decided that the only way to medicate this annoyance is to perform the mind-numbing labor that is strip mining. But hey, at least it's not listening to obnoxious groans every 13 seconds. It also lends me the opportunity to do the obligatory and shameless self-promotion bit. That's right, like, share, subscribe, suck my nut. Your manual support, which will take less than 5 seconds, will make my monkey brain activate the elements, and perhaps convince it that it is actually worth doing and take it seriously. And if that happens, and if you enjoy the video, I promise you there will be a lot more, and maybe even better live videos than coming soon. Okay, but seriously, if you actually enjoyed this video thus far, well, congratulations firstly. Second, subscribe, it would mean a lot to me, it's literally free. So I'd greatly appreciate it. After a long while of eating nothing burgers, we finally get the diamonds which we initially came here for. But we're not finished just yet. We ended up sending for stuff, notably the nether, and by proxy blaze rods. Along the way, I also encountered the brown ore again. With a freshly crafted diamond pickaxe, I harvested the ore, which turned out to be ancient debris shards. If I find 9 of these, I can craft 1 ancient debris, and I need 4 of those for some netherite. Not only is this almost insultingly inefficient, it's also practically pointless as, well, you'll see. Our strip mining eventually leads us to a pair of lava pools which we proceed to gradually harvest. After clearing the zombies, that is, but do I even need to mention it at this point? After a rough scuffle with a couple of burning zombies, I proceed onward to leave this cave system. An opening on the way lends itself to me finding some additional diamonds, plus some bonus ores. Some off-screen caving later, I decide to go up rather than distract myself with more caves. And that's why you place torches up beneath you when digging up. This leads me into yet more caves. Shocking, I know. Unfortunately, this one did have nightlight access. So through such a window we go. I was so tired at this point, but I was too sleepy to sleep. The good news is that a local drone reminded me to go to bed. The bad news is that in the process he left his rotten teeth on my arm, causing me to get infected. Well, I guess this is the end. I have no apples, meaning in T-minus 5 minutes I'll turn British and die. Or it would be, if it weren't for the fact that the Everlords of Mojang blessed me with a nearby village by subconsciously understanding that I am trying to get content out of this otherwise mediocre mod pack. And also the fact that I'm in hardcore mode, making such an experience objectively funny. Give me a second. Much better. After Christ has been averted, it's high time to play the other half of Minecraft, i.e. the crafting. I've been surviving without ammo for the better part of 2 hours, and I would quite like to have a new toy. So let's get to work. Stove on, materials in, the clock at 12, a wave of zombies approaching. With the weapon printer forged after a while of planning, see I told you the glass and diamonds will be useful, it's time to decide what new toy I want. It's a shotgun. But between the HS-12 and the Spaz-12, I had a hard time deciding. In the meantime, I cleared out the outside of my temporary forging area of the undead. Well, tried to. Frankly, there were so many that I couldn't care enough to do so fully. Eventually, when the material I had finished processing, I settled on the HS-12, as its 2.5x fire rate would compensate its slightly lower damage. Or it would have, if it weren't for the fact that it was a double-barrel shotgun. I had no way of truly knowing unless it were in my hand. Oh well. Let's just go outside and tell— holy sh! I retract my disappointment. I should have known from Doom that double barrels are indeed shot fun. In the satisfaction of my newly acquired equipment, I picked the house in the village, which I believe is kind of behind your back by the way, and settled in for the night. Surely we have made good progress so far, and tomorrow we'll head to the nether. Alright. It's time to go to hell. Clean up some stuff first, then head outside, where it'll lie. The 2x1 by free obsidian frame, and a mat. What? Oh, you've gotta be— shit! Fine, fine! If the game says so, I won't go to the nether. I'll find a different way to the end. In the meanwhile of my pondering, I explored the village some more, though the only thing of value it yields are food and villagers. One of them was infected, so their safety would have to be ensured such that I actually got their value. Yet given the fact that their town was just placed on a powder ravine, I'm more shocked that I can attain any value at all. With some apples obtained from the village, I also applied 2-ton gold ingots to 3 of the apples, securing me from infections for the foreseeable future. Don't ask me about the deficiency or logic, Minecraft is just like that. Heading back, I encounter a zombie horse. I put it out of its misery, and after a brief nap, I head towards the local matches. Oh shit, I already did this joke tonight. Towards the average Floridian city. I will tell you of all the amazing stuff I found there, but the only things of note that I found were a handful of blast versions and some zombies. But I did find a blue lobster to add to my non-existent collection. Okay, I also found some golden moss in a chest with iron. I'll assume it behaves like a regular enchanted golden apple, just that it's moss, so obviously tastier. The limited question still remains however. How am I going to access the end without the nether? Well, you'll be happy to know that one of the mods in my repertoire can give access to blaze rods without the nether. Can you guess which one? That's right, it's Create, and welcome to episode 1 of Create Thingamabobs. To use the contraptions of Create, I'll use a windmill, which means getting wool from the masses of sheep littering the plains. I'll also need plenty of andesite for the andesite alloy, which is prevalent throughout the entire mod. After crafting them with some smelted zinc, I used the first few andesite alloys to make some andesite casings and the windmill sails. After crafting the windmill bearing, I grabbed some ocean kelp to use for the mechanical belts and spouts. I made a handful of additional items to use in the blaze rod contraption. While we admire my invention's construction, I feel it is important to know what the blaze rods need. In order to make one blaze rod, you need to sand a block of coal, which turns into a rod. Then sequentially fill the rod with 250 ml buckets of lava, twice, then slam it with a press. Repeat this process a total of 4 times to get your blaze rod, leading to a total item cost of 1 coal block and 2 buckets of lava, minus the one-time cost of the machines. Given that I'll be heading for my standard of 16 blaze rods for reasons of having a comfortable amount of rods, personal preference, and the fact that I, without fail, always forget that 1 blaze rod crafts to 2 blaze powder, I will require 16 coal blocks and 32 lava buckets. Also, feel free to skip this part, this is just my opinion, but it often feels like Create is so often shoehorned into any and all modern mod pack. Like, no shame to the mod devs or its fans, but very frequently is Create implemented in a poor way, which can sometimes lead to unintended consequences of game progression of the mod pack. And, more notably, it is implemented in places where it could be completely out of theme and jarring for the mod pack. Don't get me wrong, Create is a fantastic mod and incredibly visually pleasing to look at. It's just that when a mod is downloaded over 1 million times, 100 million times actually, it tends to pop up in places where one doesn't expect it or doesn't want it to. Anyway, once the windmill is finished, I utilize the rotational force generator that I forgot how to speed up to make some copper plates for some fluid pipe. Once that's done, I will learn how to speed up the gears without your rotational controllers, and begin laying out the foundations of our blaze thingamabob, and head out for some resources, specifically coal. Status update on the zombies mental. It's going down faster than the US economy, and they're slowly becoming more of an inconvenience rather than a threat. I wind up dissociating and find myself in another city stealing books from an abandoned office and finding a zombie horde because loot. Okay, I'll get you next time, you rascal kids. Anyways, after returning to the mines, we eventually net ourselves enough coal. Now for the lava. While I could hypothetically make lava with cobble, I need light places for that, and you know, shit! That leaves us with only the normal, boring, manual option. At least I made a tank upgrade for my backpack. Heading back to a near village cave, I also encountered the only other arrow zombie in this playthrough. While they're all alone. Poor bub. After a while of caving, I found myself a large enough lava pool to fill my tank on my lava bucket quota. After that, I found a new way to further abuse the poor zombies with a large pool of water. Yeah, my respect for these things has now carved below the basement, so much so that I wind up in the middle of a large squad of zombies and wind up both infected and at the lowest amount of health I ever had in this playthrough. Luckily, my sins had not failed and I managed to retreat to safety and clear the gang. Back at home, I start a minor side project. I need a new pickaxe, preferably enchanted. Since I don't want to spend my diamonds on a new pick, I'll buy it from a villager instead. For this, I need some emeralds and I'll use sticks for source. Wait a minute, what's that sound? Ah, give me a moment. Anyway, I'll also sell the stacks of rotten flesh I've been gathering, alongside the sticks to yield enough emeralds for the pickaxe and an additional axe. I enchant the pick with efficiency 4, letting it be comfortably fast enough for the rest of the run. Back on track, I stand on the coal blocks and pump the lava into a tank, which will supply the lava pitting spouts. In the process, however, a blood moon begins to rise. Other than being a terrible and original concept borrowed from Terraria, I think, it prevents me from sleeping and greatly increases the mob spawn rate. Not willing to waste ammo, I spend the night inside my house doing what amounts to sweet FA. Once dawn comes, I head back outside, layering any stragglers to finally complete my system. Once fully assembled, I send to make my long-awaited blaze rods. This is it then. Make some final preparations, crafting ammo and additional golden apples. Also grabbing building blocks, all for the long road ahead to the stronghold. The last thing to do is to craft the blaze powder and combine them with ender pearls to make... Wait. Oh no. No, that can't be right. The GI says it's supposed to craft... No. Why?
Damn you,
the ads are uncraftable, there's no way to reach the end. This is the end of the road. Actually, wait, no, why the fuck do I care what the devs want me to do? I'll find a way to beat the game, even if it involves cheating. Yeah, I cheated. I actually was initially just gonna beat the mutant zombie and call it quits, but it doesn't spawn. Neither naturally nor with eggs. In fact, no hostile monster does. Only zombies. So in the end, I bit the bullet and just headed for my original goal, the end. I located the portal via commands and just teleported there. Skipping the trial order, alas. Once inside, it was only a matter of time to find the frame, with the only obstacles standing in my way were zombies and a handful of silverfish. The final cheat I used was to give me enough Eyes of Ender in exchange for the pearls and blaze powder. And finally, I jumped in. Come here, you oversized crow. Wow, who would have thought that a gun would easily kill a dragon? With it defeated once and for until I do another Minecraft playthrough, I steal his child and attempt to head to the end cities, but end up whiffing and using the last ender pearl I had, so in the end, I go home. Well then, what have we learned? First, please, for the love of God, if you're only gonna have one kind of enemy, at least make variations of said enemy and also make them frequent enough for them to be a threat. Second, do quality checking of the mods instead of just slapping quality of life or create and calling it good. Third, if you're going to restrict certain parts of vanilla Minecraft at the very least, be honest about it and let the player know it without having to open external sources or have those parts that aren't available be visible in the GUI. In addition, if you're going to remove dimensions in favor of your own, at least make the rewards more than just Lagutter gear. Anyway, thanks for watching if you didn't till the end, and I'll see you in whatever other videos where I'll cover other mod packs or games actually intended to be played. Till then, and farewell.